Hello guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Hybeecodes, also known as Hybeecodes. I'm a software engineer and also a lover of God. If you are new to this channel, this is a channel where we talk about technology, lifestyle, and faith. So if that sounds interesting to you, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the videos, drop your comments, and also share with your friends. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. In this video, I'm going to be sharing a few tips on how to prepare for and also pass your technical interviews. And for this video, I'm going to be focusing on technical assessment and strictly technical interviews. So after sharing a walkthrough of my Paystack technical assessment interview, I thought it would be nice for me to just share a few tips that came to my mind while I was recording that video. Bear it in mind that these tips I'm going to be sharing in this video are not exhaustive. And what that means is that there are a lot more tips, but these are just the few that I'm going to be sharing in this particular video. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's dive right in. So before we dive right into those tips, let me quickly do a run through of what a typical technical interview process looks like. Now, bear it in mind that this process that I want to share is something that is general to mid-sized companies, right? Not big tech, not FANG companies. And this is because for FANG companies, for big tech like Microsoft, Google, their interview process is quite different from this one that I'm going to be sharing in this video. So let's get to it. So for a typical technical interview process, it usually consists of 4 steps. So the first step is usually a phone call, which is usually with a recruiter or an engineering manager, depending on whoever is coordinating that process. And basically, in this phone interview, all you are doing is just getting to know each other. The recruiter or whoever it is that is having an interview with you is trying to get to know you, and also on the other hand, you are trying to get to know the company and what the company needs, more about the role also. A quick tip for this stage is just don't lie on your resume. As long as you don't lie on your resume and you're a good person, I think you're going to pass that phone interview stage. So the second stage is usually a technical assessment stage or a technical interview stage. Either of these stages can come first. Regardless of whichever one comes first, the aim for these stages is to assess your technical proficiency level. So they are going to be asking you questions, technical questions based on your experience. This means based on what you claim to know. And then they'll be asking you questions based on the requirement for the role you are interviewing for. And then the last stage is the culture fit interview. This is usually the last stage in every interview process. The aim of this last stage is to check whether you fit into the culture of the company or you don't. So usually they would ask you behavioral questions, situational questions. They will ask you how you work. Try as much as possible to read up on and understand the values of the company you are interviewing with, because the culture is based on the values. And as long as you can understand the values and you can understand how these values are being incorporated in the day-to-day work, I think you're going to ace this stage. Now to the tips. So the first tip I have for you guys is learn or research as much as you can about the company. See, it doesn't make sense that you are interviewing with a company and you don't know anything about what they do. You need to research what the company does. You need to research how they treat their employees. You need to research any recent news or any recent information about the company. Like I said earlier when I was talking about the culture fit interview, one of the most important things you need to understand about the company is the value system of that company. If you don't understand this about the company, there's a high chance that you will not pass that culture fit interview. There's even a high chance that you will not even make it past the phone call interview, because one of the things that recruiters and even engineering managers look out for is the value system, whether you align with this value right from the first call or you don't. And if you understand this value, then you can be able to display the value that this company hold in high esteem at every single point of the interview. So this is why it is very important to understand the company that you are interviewing with. Another reason for this is so that you can know how best to customize your answers in such a way that it will be relatable to this company. If you don't know anything about the company, there's no way you can answer certain questions in a way that they will be relatable to your interviewers. So the second tip I have for you guys is always look up your interviewers. Now, this tip applies not only to technical interviews, but regardless of the stage you are in your recruitment process, it is important for you to have some information about the person that is interviewing you. This would help you to know how best to respond. This will help you to know how best to deal with this person. Trust me, as someone that has been on both sides of the table, I know it goes a long way when your interviewer knows that you have done your due diligence and gotten some information under your belt right before the interview. For instance, I had an interview earlier this year, and during the technical interview stage, the interviewer was someone that worked at Amazon previously before the company I was interviewing with. And I knew this because I was able to research that guy's profile on LinkedIn. So I knew that. And as someone that has interviewed with Amazon before, I was able to use this information during the interview process. We had like a lot of things to talk about, and eventually this guy actually loved me and I ended up getting the job. So honestly, this might just be the saving grace for you. This might just be the leverage you need in your interview process. Now to the next tip. This third tip is not just one, and it is specifically for technical assessments stage. So the first tip is always ask clarifying questions. Whenever you get a technical assessment test and it's a little bit ambiguous, please make sure to always ask clarifying questions. Don't just make assumptions and go on with implementation. As I clearly shared during my technical assessments for my pay stack test, I mentioned that I asked clarifying questions. That would actually go a long way in helping a lot of people. I've been in situations where we intentionally sent that candidate an ambiguous question because we wanted to see how that person approaches that kind of question. So if you want to actually impress your interviewers or the company you're interviewing with, whenever you get an ambiguous question, try as much as possible to ask clarifying question. The second tip is state your assumptions. This is because there are situations where you are intentionally asked to just make your own decisions, right? The company will not tell you certain things because they want to see what you come up with. In those kind of situations, try as much as possible, maybe in the readme of the project, make sure to add all the things you made assumptions about. If you assumed that there will be an authentication system, please state it there. If you assumed that the database will be a NoSQL, please state it there. So make sure to always state your assumptions, and also make sure to always explain or state your design decisions. So the third one is always clarify if the repository should be public or private. This is only applicable in a situation where you've been asked to submit via GitHub or via GitLab or maybe Bitbucket. Always try to clarify if that repository should be public or private. I've seen situations where people don't ask and then they make the repository private by default. So whenever the company is ready to review your code, they don't get access to it. And I've seen situations where people get disqualified just because of this. Ideally, I don't think it should matter, but I think it's a tip that will come in handy when you most need it. So the last tip I want to share in this video is always send in an appreciation email after every of your interviews. Now, this is kind of a bonus tip from me to you, and this was also something I did during my paystack interview. And honestly, in most cases, this might not maybe make your standing better or make them love you more. It might just be an additional factor whenever they are considering you for the job. Imagine a situation where there are two candidates that did perfectly well in their technical interviews, but there was just one person that seems to be more appreciative of the process than the other person. Honestly, I've seen situations where that in itself was just considered as a deciding factor to pick somebody over another person. So after each of your interviews, you can send in a follow-up email just appreciating your interviewer for the nice time during the interview. Let them know that you learned a lot. Let them know that you really, really enjoyed the process. Now, don't lie if you did not enjoy the process. So if you did not enjoy the process, don't even bother sending anything, right? That's just by the way. So if you enjoyed the interview and you really loved it, show it and let them know that you actually loved the interview. So that will be all for this video, guys. I hope you found these tips applicable. Let me know your thoughts about them in the comment section, and also share in the comment section if you will be applying any of these tips in your subsequent interviews. Once again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure to do that right now. Like this video, share the video with your friends, and also drop your comments. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, keep believing, keep growing, and keep glowing. Peace.